Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us. You're listening to Hard for Justice, a Steven Seagal podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and we are kind of jumping ahead here. This is a special episode. We're going to be reviewing Glimmerman as our next Steven Seagal movie. And the reason we're jumping ahead is because we have a special guest that we got to interview, Stepehen Tobolowsky, who plays Christopher Maynard in The Glimmerman. He's an excellent actor. He's been in several things: Sneakers, Spaceballs, Californication, Silicon Valley, Groundhog Day. He's been in basically everything. And he's amazing, and here's his interview. Take a listen. All right, I want to welcome our guest, Stepehen Tobolowsky. We are very honored to have him join us as our first guest. We are not worthy of his presence here, but we thank him nonetheless. Thank you, Stephen, for joining us.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Good to be here.
Thank you very much. So before we get down to what's kind of like the core of the podcast, which is Steven Seagal movies, I wanted to ask you some questions because I was going over your filmography over the past few days, and you've been in basically everything, including some of my favorite movies, Spaceballs, Groundhog Day, Sneakers, Californication, Silicon Valley, the two of the shows I love.
Great shows.
Yeah, what got the bug started for you, the acting bug?
Yeah, it's interesting. I want to do full disclosure here because, there are a lot of hosts that don't send the questions in advance.
Oh, right.
It's the ambush attack, but you sent the questions in advance yesterday, and I thought about it, and it took me down a different path because I had too long to think about it, and I come up with the I think it's Heraclitus. The Heraclitus quote is that no man steps into the same river twice because the river is never the same, nor is the man.
Right.
So when I think about your question about how I got the acting bug, I got the acting bug when I was a child because I loved monster movies, and I thought monsters were real, and if I could be an actor, I could hang out with the Mummy.
Oh, good.
I could hang out with Frankenstein.
Well, yeah.
But then the man changed. Yeah. And when I first in junior high school started getting applause and laughter for being in shows at school, I thought, oh, this is great. And then when I got into college, I thought it was noble being an actor because I'm working on Chekhov and Shaw and Ibsen and Eugene O'Neill and Shakespeare. We're doing good work here. We're keeping great ideas alive. And then I come to Los Angeles and I play butt-crack plumber. And yeah, and as you said, I've been in so many things in a lot of these shows. Some of them are great, like Groundhog Day, like Memento, like Deadwood or Californication or One Day at a Time. Goldberg's is delightful. And some of them are just not to be mentioned at all, are not memorable. So, what got you into the acting bug and kept changing throughout my life, and what has sustained me is that I keep getting jobs. So now at a certain point you can't be a left-handed relief pitcher anymore.
Right.
Those options go away, but also other options go, like you can't, maybe the one thing I could do now is drive an ice cream truck over at the park. So many options are gone from me now, so I have to remain being an actor.
Okay, but the important question is: did you ever get to meet the Mummy? That's the key there.
No. That is a great question.
Has eluded you.
It is that I have not met. But I did. Is there a drum roll? Okay, you're gonna be really impressed with this. I did meet Godzilla.
Oh, really?
I did. Yes.
Like the guy who was in the suit back in the old movies?
No, the guy who's motion capture in the new one.
Oh,
and
cool.
also Ghidorah, the three-headed monster.
Oh, very cool.
So Jason is a man of many talents, all of them being monstrous.
Right. So that kind of trumps the Mummy.
Well, I think so. Breathing fire always trumps someone who's slow, even though he lives for 1,000 years. That's like my computer.
Exactly. So I recently listened to the story that you told about how you got the part of Ned Ryerson.
Yeah.
And kind of stole it, quote unquote, from Kurt Fuller. Could you tell us that story, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I don't think I really stole it because that
I apologize for that, yeah.
it indicates that I pilfered something that,
Right.
that kind of awfulness happens in show business a lot.
Right.
And I guess what happened was, this is the weirdest story in the world, because Kurt and I were playing brothers in a movie, Calendar Girl. We were playing kind of mafioso hitmen, kind of rough. If you can imagine Kurt and I beating up people, that's a real joke. But we were shooting in Paris, California. And right before we went out of town to shoot in Paris, California, which is the gang capital of California. I mean, they're proud of it too. And also it's the hot air balloon capital of California. That's where you go to ride in hot air balloons to avoid the gangs who are down on the ground level. So I had this audition for a movie, Groundhog Day, which I wasn't necessarily particularly excited about, but I thought, Bill Murray, it's got to be good. Harold Ramis, got to be good. So I went in and just kind of did this audition. And then we go out of town. And the only time in my entire career, and this is so weird, that producers put Kurt and I in the same bedroom together overnight. I mean, we're grown men. Yeah. We played brothers, but we're not that close.
I'm envisioning plane, trains, and automobiles, kind of.
Yes, perfect.
Right.
So they're the two queen beds in this motel in Paris, California, and Kurt and I are in the two queen beds. And so we're pretending it's like summer camp with the YMCA at night. And he's going like, so, in the dark, so you up to anything? And I know that the only thing an actor really wants to hear from another actor is that they're leaving the business. They don't want to hear about jobs someone's getting or auditions or anything. So I'm just saying, Kurt, it's the same old, knocking on doors, nothing going on. And I said, anything happening for you? And he goes, well, yeah, actually, I'm going to be in the next Bill Murray movie. Harold Ramis is directing Groundhog Day. I have this great part. Ned Ryerson. We've already had the first few read-throughs and rehearsals, and I'm lying in bed, and part of my soul is melting, exploding, turning into plasma, flying into space in all different directions. Sometimes when something really terrible has happened,
Right.
And I know something is really terribly happening either to me or to Kurt or to both of us. Because I just auditioned for this part, and he's already been rehearsing for it.
Exactly.
So I don't know what to say or do. And so I just keep my mouth shut because who knows, nothing's going to happen. So then I get a call back while we're shooting Calendar Girl. So I make the drive from Paris back to L.A., 2 hours or so. I audition for Harold Ramis. On the drive back, I hear I get the part of Ned. I arrive back in Paris, and Kurt has heard I got the part of Ned. And he is rightfully so betrayed, furious. It's one of the awful things that you have to deal with in show business all the time. And Kurt and I have worked together several times. It just happens a lot, unfortunately. So he was furious. And I finished Calendar Girl, and immediately, as soon as I finished that show, I went up to Chicago, got in a car, drove out to Woodstock, and began shooting Ned Ryerson in Groundhog Day. I didn't see Kurt again until the premiere. The premiere of the movie happened in Westwood, and I was taking Andy McDowell wanted me to kind of ride shotgun to keep men away from her. I have that effect on all sorts of people. I drive them away. Tough job. And Kurt is standing in front of the theater. And he said, I'm going to watch the movie with you. So I hadn't seen the movie yet. I didn't know what it was, good, bad, or whatever. I'm sitting down, and I watch what is certainly one of the best comedies ever made. It's definitely just amazing. Bill's performance it will stand the test of time. It is so good. He is so phenomenal in the movie. The movie ends, And Kurt walks out with me, and he said, well, you got my part, but at least you did a good job with it. And he hugged me and said, congratulations, and walked away. And I thought in my life, if I ever had the gift of graciousness that Kurt had at that moment, I would be a very lucky man. I thought that was one of the most moving and stellar gifts I ever got from another actor. That was terrific.
Yeah, I love hearing stories like that. It kind of restores my faith in humanity a little bit.
A little bit, not too much, a little bit. Is there?
I love hearing stories like that. Is there other actors that you've worked with that have that same level of professionalism, or that come to mind?
Well, I've worked with so many really, really wonderful, great actors. One of them was, do you have the drum roll machine again? Mel Gibson.
Oh, really?
Yes, see, there you go with the oh, really.
That's
Mel
surprising.
Gibson.
Yeah.
My wife was pregnant with our first child. She was here in Los Angeles, probably about 15 or 16 months pregnant. I was up in Canada doing Bird on a Wire with Mel Gibson. And I am enormously distracted. And Mel and I are about to do a chase scene followed by a fight. And I play an FBI guy, corrupt FBI guy. I'm always corrupt. And he says, what's wrong? And I told him that my wife is pregnant. She may go into labor at any moment. And at that point, Mel sat down with me and told me about the wonders of birth and pregnancy. He'd been through 5 home births with his wife. And he said, the thing that we do is that whenever the baby is born, I play the piano. We play the piano so the baby knows that it's coming into a world of music and beauty. And then when the baby's able to come out, we take the baby and we dance with the baby around the room to let the child know it's a beautiful, beautiful world that they just come to.
Wow.
Yes. Mel Gibson. It's like one of the greatest, most generous people. And, when the whole thing came out of the awfulness at the side of the road and the anti-Semitic stuff and all that stuff that was well documented, it made me go, I wish the other stuff was documented as well.
Exactly.
We like to tar and feather somebody with our worst moments, but I think we need to balance them with also who we are and what we are when we don't have to be. Mel didn't have to extend himself to me at all, but he did.
Yeah.
But, that's the world. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't have to be that, get that personal with you, and he did, which was really nice.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
So going on to one of your movies, which is the reason we're here today, The Glimmer Man.
Wow. Now, see, this just shows you how far purpose can go to drive someone. Like your purpose today is Steven Seagal. This is amazing to me. So Glimmer Man, what did you think of Glimmer Man?
I watched it for the first time yesterday.
First time?
Yes. Because I stopped watching the Seagal movies I think it was like On Deadly Ground. So a lot of these are going to be new to me, which is nice. Overall, the movie was, we'll review it later. It was, I'll give my final grade later, but it was okay. But your performance was great. I loved the entrance that you had. But can you tell us about how you got the part and specifically working with Steven Seagal in particular?
Wow. Man, you asked the tough question.
If you don't mind.
No. Well, it just is again one of those things that doesn't appear to be good on the surface, but then we don't know all the facts involved.
Sure.
So I was to audition for Stephen at his home in a very nice area of Los Angeles over by UCLA. Don't want to give out any information.
What's his
so
address?
I get his home address. The audition is to be at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, so I'm all ready to be the serial killer. And I do have a monologue, so at least there was something that I had a speech, and then I had a scene after that with Stephen. So I thought, well, I can understand why Stephen wants to see someone read with him and see how the chemistry is. I get it. So the housekeeper let me into his, I guess, living room. I don't know what you call it because it was filled with saddles. It had these very fancy, beautiful horse saddles from all over the world that looked like a Mongolian saddle, one covered with gold. I mean, these saddles, I don't know who you expect to be courting. That you bring them over and you go, here, you want to see my saddles?
Here's my saddle room.
This is the saddle room. So I sit down, I'm led to the saddle room, and I sit on the sofa and I wait. So my audition was at 10. I got there like 10 till 10. So I like to be punctual. Yep. 11 o'clock, nothing. 11:30, nothing. 12 o'clock, I asked the housekeeper, I said, is everything all right? I've been waiting here 2 hours and I don't know what. He goes, oh, he's gotten up and he's getting ready to come downstairs to meet you. And I go, oh, okay. Get it, maybe, late night. Stephen comes downstairs, not formally dressed. He came downstairs in his what looked like pajamas and a bathrobe. So he had just awakened, and he came downstairs, and he said, and, there were no apologies for keeping me 2 hours late. In fact, I felt like it was part of the audition, is to see, like, what is your tolerance for pain?
Yeah.
It's like a Zen thing. Like, am I going to make a fuss over this? But I didn't. It was Saturday morning, so it was a pretty day, so I just kept going over the speech in my head. So I did the speech, and he said, yeah, I think it's good if, I want tears. I want tears in this speech, if you could have tears, And I go, yes, Stephen, I know the tears. So, I did the speech again with more angst. And it's, if you only understood what it is to be, So I did it with real angst. We never went through the little bit of the scene for him, and I left, and I found out I got the part. I was to shoot that scene the first day of shooting Glimmerman. Now, that's interesting, isn't it? Because I began shooting Groundhog Day the first shot of the first day of shooting. I began shooting Glimmerman first shot of the first day. Yeah. So I am in my trailer, and John Gray, who's the director of Glimmerman, who's a guy who I've worked with before, enjoyed working with him. The first time I met John Gray was at an ice cream parlor. And he came up to me in Los Angeles, and he had just seen me in Mississippi Burning. And he said, hi, my name's John Gray. I just want to tell you I loved the head of the KKK in Mississippi Burning. I go, thank you, John Gray. Thank you. He said, well, I'm a director, so you may hear from me again. And Lord, I did. And he's a great director, great to work for, a lot of fun to work with. So John came in and said, we have a problem. And I mean, we haven't even started shooting.
Right. You're like, what time is it?
Yeah. I'm there early. And the reason they called me, my call time, and again, I'm making this call time up because I don't remember this exactly. Let's say 8 o'clock was my call time, which is not terribly early. I mean, for the Goldbergs, a lot of times my call time is 6 a.m. So I think 8 a.m. for the beginning of a feature is fine. But no one is there. No one is there. I'm the only person there. And then some of our vans, the vans start showing up. So I was there before the set was even there. And I'm going like, why am I here? Oh, because you hadn't had a consultation about hair yet. I said, a consultation about hair? And then they look at me and they see that I'm bald and they go, oh, that probably was a mistake. But anyway, let's wait for the hair person to come and just give you a quick once over. I'm going like, what? I'm not wearing a wig. You know what? I'm not going to. So anyway, nothing happened from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock. Except our trailers arrived, and I waited for the hair person who gave me the go-ahead.
They're like, you're good.
You're good. You're fine. We'll polish your skull before you go on. And then John comes in and says, we have a problem. Apparently, Stephen has had some sort of spiritual transformation, and he feels like he shouldn't kill people anymore. And so he doesn't want to shoot you. He doesn't want to kill you in this movie. And I'm going like, but that's the whole first scene. The whole first scene is about me taking this priest hostage, and I'm a serial killer, and he's a policeman, and it's all to set him up as the good guy. That he saves a priest's life and kills this nasty serial killer, which is me.
Right.
He goes, well, he thinks, I don't know, he thinks that all living things are precious, and oh God. He says, just avoid Stephen at all costs. Just don't, we'll try to work around this.
Right.
So anyway, we're called out onto the set to rehearse. And we start going through the scene, and then Stephen starts, I have this idea that, life is precious, and I don't feel we're setting a good example by killing people in these movies. And the people at Warner Brothers said to him when he gave that argument to him, Stephen, you dance with who brung you. That's what you do in movies. Yeah. You kill people, and you kill them real good. That's why you have that niche. Yep. The putting Tommy Lee Jones's head through the, that's great stuff. That's the stuff that keeps us going. Right. You got to do that, man. And so I'm raising my hand like this, and John Gray is behind Stephen, like waving, like, no, shut up, no. And I go, well, Stephen, I had this whole other thought on this. And he goes, what is it? What are you thinking? I said, well, I'm in hell now as a serial killer. Yeah. As a serial killer, I feel that I have to die because my only salvation is through reincarnation. That if I can die, I can maybe come back as something that can be creative and productive in the world. I could bring peace in the world. I could be the opposite of who I am, but now I am trapped. I am trapped in this soul, this murderous soul, where nothing good comes of it. So I feel you killing me is actually a gift, not only to me, but to the entire hierarchy of humankind on earth. Gives me a chance to come back as something better. And he goes, yeah, that's a good idea. We'll do that. So John is like going, hooray, hooray. And I'm feeling like the huge hero of the day. So we shoot the whole scene. Stephen kills me. They rigged me with this thing like I'm shot many times where, and that was back when actors had squibs.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what those are? Yep. Those were exploding things with blood.
Yeah.
Not only explosive, but they blow out. So if you accidentally look down, you could blow your face off. So they always, the special effects people say, stand straight. That's why all the people who get shot in movies are like, oh! They're standing straight because this is like dynamite coming off of their chest with blood and clothes and all this stuff coming out. So they did this squib thing that comes out of my chest explodes, like just the shirt rips open and like blood comes out, and I'm really killed. They killed him really, really good. And so success, I go home, I tell my wife, we're cool, we're great. The shoot went well. Stephen was great in it. He killed me real good. He was terrific. I'm glad we did it. Fade out, fade in. About 2 months, 3 months later, call from John Gray. We have a problem. How is this possible? How is it possible we have a problem? Because I'm wrapped. How is it possible?
I'm wrapped, I'm dead.
He said, because Stephen ad-libbed in another scene later in the movie, I'm sure glad I didn't kill that guy in the church. I go, what? He says, and it was the only take we could keep of him, and he threw it in this scene in the ambulance or whatever. I'm glad we didn't kill the guy in the church. So could you come to the editing the editing room? Let's take a look at the footage, and let's see if we could do something in post to fix this. And I'm like, oh, my God. So I go in, and they have the shot of me there with the priest, and Stephen go, bah, bah, bah. Chest explodes. I fall out of frame, and then John says, now right here, right when you fall out of frame, could you add a line to indicate that you're still alive? Nowadays, we have references to Austin Powers.
Right, yeah,
and
exactly.
the hilarious scene with Mustafa, I am badly burned, but I'm still alive. You know, we didn't have that back then. So, I looking at John, I'm going like, oh my God. Keenan Ivory Wayans walked in, and he looked at the scene, and he goes, man, now we're in the level of high comedy. And so the first thing I said is I fall out of frame, and I threw in the line, you bastard, you bastard. And then I did another one like, just because I was so angry. It's just a flesh wound. Monty Python, you know. And then I just did something like, finish me, you son of a bitch. Something like that. It was terrible. In the end, I don't know what they used, which one they used. They may have even cut before my chest explodes. Mm-hmm. So when you watched it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do they do now? What did I say and what did I do?
Your chest explodes and you fall down, and that's it. You don't come back as far as, they didn't have any of those extra lines in there.
Oh,
so,
thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah, I think they cut out Stephen saying that he didn't kill you. Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Okay. Oh, gosh. See, you just brought me enormous relief on this podcast. Because I haven't had the stomach to watch it because, with moments as an actor you have that are really terrible, like me falling out of frame going, it's just a flesh wound.
You bastard.
You bastard. I would, that just is such a nightmare, actor's nightmare for real. So that's good. That is Glimmer Man.
Yes. Thank you very much. So can you tell us a little bit about the Tobolowsky files? I just recently discovered it, doing some research on you, and I listened to a couple episodes. One episode this morning I listened to was episode 90, The Working Man.
Oh yeah.
Which was hilarious. I love that. Especially the part where you're like, you're in the bus and everybody's like looks at you and they're like, I'm in hell, basically.
Now, if you listen to the last episode, you listen to episode 90. So the last episode is the second part of Working Man. Yeah. So the final episode, it goes back to Working Man, and it ties up the whole series. Okay. So what the Tobolowsky files was I almost got killed in 2008. I broke my neck riding on a horse on the side of an active volcano. Oh, wow. It's a very, very popular story. That's also one of my podcasts called The Afflictions of Love. So if you listen to my podcast, The Afflictions of Love, that is the podcast of my broken neck and my riding the horse in Iceland and my recovery. That's when David Chen, who at the time was a student at Harvard, he had seen my storytelling movie done by Robert Brinkman, Stephen Tobolowsky's Birthday Party, which is quite hilarious and quite of me telling true stories on my birthday from dawn until midnight. Mm-hmm. And we have a party of people. So it begins with me on the seashore at dawn, telling stories of birthdays past, then coming back to the house, barbecuing and making a birthday cake and everything, then the guests arriving that evening, and then at the end of the night, is cleaning up the table and washing the dishes and all that stuff. And I tell stories, true stories, all the way through. That's what that is. Stepehen Tobolowsky, just a wonderful movie. We opened the HBO Comedy Festival in Aspen with it. It was at South by Southwest. It's great if you ever want to look at that one. But anyway, David Chin saw that movie and he said, I'd like to do a podcast with you where you continue doing true stories. And since David was on /film.com, he wanted me to do true movie stories. Mm-hmm. So I began, since you have a broken neck, I have plenty of time. I began writing these true stories from my life, kind of as a legacy for my kids, in case I had really died on that mountain in Iceland. Yeah. So I began writing true stories of my life. The first 3 stories, podcasts 1, 2, and 3, are somewhat movie related. And then the 4th one, my mother had a heart attack in Dallas. And so I went back to Dallas and she passed away. And the 4th story, the 4th podcast is called The Alchemist. And it is the story of the last 24 hours of my mother's life. And I called David up and I said, this one is nothing about movies. Nothing about movies. I'm sorry. I just had to do this. So I did it. David heard the podcast and just said, from now on, write whatever you want to write. And that podcast went all over the world. Mm-hmm. The story of my mother, of all things. Yeah. And from then on, the Tobolowsky Files had an international audience. And what it is true stories of life, love, and Hollywood, not in any chronological order, but I found that because they are true stories, the beginnings and ends, like sometimes you'll get the end of, like the first story you hear about my mother is the last 24 hours of her life. Right. The next story you hear about my mother is when she drove out to California with me to get me an apartment because I wanted to be a professional actor. Yeah. And so there's something cool sometimes with having an act 3 before you have an act 2. And then you go back to stories like in this last group of podcasts, one called Ghost Writer, of how I became a writer with my mother getting me my first library card when I was 7.
That's cool.
And how I'm back in my room and I want to imitate that. And I checking out a dinosaur book and I decide to write my own dinosaur book. And my mother comes back and says, "What are you doing, Stevie?" And I say, "I'm writing this book." And she said, "Well, tell me about dinosaurs." And I said, "Well, this is an ichthyosaur. It's a fish-eating dinosaur. It has lots of teeth." And she said, "Well, you better get busy. You have a lot to write." And
it's so cool.
And I do the story of that's how I became a writer. So you go, some of the stories go back in time. They go back to my first girlfriend, Beth, who ended up winning the Pulitzer Prize for drama, to my current wife, Anne, who I've been married to for 33 years. So it has stories about fatherhood. All the stories are true. Plenty of movie and television stories. The Steven Seagal story, I'm sure, is in there somewhere. All the stories are true. And one critic listened to it and said, it is like a serialized man. Because they're true stories, it's like, hey, man does not step into the same river twice. Because the river's not the same, nor is the man. Yeah. And that is what the Tobolowsky Files demonstrates, the changing river and the fact that the man changes. And I have new stories that hopefully will be coming out this year, but it's free. This is something people should know if they're interested in the Tobolowsky. David and I decided to do it without a cash, what do they call it? When you make money off of something.
Yeah, incentive or...
Yeah, there's no cash motive to it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it just is what it is, and we put it out there. But, you know, the Tobolowsky Files has been out on NPR stations now all over the country. And that has spawned 2 books of mine with Simon & Schuster, So I got paid that way. I've gotten trips all over the world because people get me out to England twice, Ireland once, Scotland once, New Zealand once, to tell stories, and all over the country, to do some of the stories from the Tobolowsky files. So, I've gotten other benefits. So it's free. No salesman will call.
Right.
And if you're having a bad day, I'd say 90% of the stories are funny and 10% are not at all, like the story of my mother passing away. But they're true, and so there's value to them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what I've listened to has been great. Actually, I started on the last one, and that's what jumped me back to 90. So, yeah, it was great. Did you want to tell us a little bit about what other products you have coming up?
Well, I do have something. I was going to say, well, with the but no, I have something actually very big. This is an example of, I had the damn broken neck, and I ended up spending that time reinventing myself as a writer. And so I began writing the Tobolowsky files. So that period of time when I had a broken neck led to the books with Simon & Schuster, which led to a play from one of my stories called A Good Day at Auschwitz. And when my mother died, I decided I would go back to the synagogue and honor her with 11 months of saying the Kaddish because I was injured. I couldn't do anything. And as I was unemployed, so I could do morning and night. And there I meet this old guy at the synagogue, and we go out to breakfast one morning, and he takes off his jacket, and he has the line of numbers from Auschwitz on his arm. And I just about fall on the table. I've never seen it in my life, for real.
Yeah.
And over the next 2 years, we become drinking buddies. We go to service 7:30 in the morning. We start drinking alcohol probably at 8:30 in the morning. It was Canadian Club, by the way, and playing poker and him telling me stories from his life. And I began to write these down. It became a podcast story called A Good Day at Auschwitz. It's 2 stories in one of my books with Simon & Schuster, My Adventures with God, and now I turned it into a play, A Good Day at Auschwitz. And Los Angeles Theater Works has recorded it as an audio play with me and Alan Mendel playing Abe. Alan Mendel is a legend in the American theater. He was the head of Lincoln Center in New York for years, but he was one of the, if not the first director of Samuel Beckett in the United States. He is one of Beckett's great proponents, working with Harold Pinter, all those great playwrights of that period of time. Alan Mendel is both a brilliant director and a stunning, stunning actor. And so Alan and I did this, and it just got released. And so if anybody is interested in this, in hearing this, and I just heard it, and I am so thrilled by Los Angeles Theater Works. Annalise Erickson was our director. She did a stunning job of directing. It's directed in what they call like a 360-degree sound sphere. And so Alan and I were not in the same room at the same location. And it's all as if you're there with us. 360-degree stereo with Foley added later, music added later. It's a great experience. And you could find that if you just do LA Theater Works, like LATW Auschwitz, it'll pop up because it is their current play in their season. And that will also play all over the world. So I'm thrilled with that. And that all came from the broken neck. So next time you break your neck, just realize it could be the best thing that ever happened to you.
Oh, exactly. Like I mentioned before in my email, I have Parkinson's disease, and that actually ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me because it gave me a new outlook on life, and I met my current girlfriend because of it. So it's the kind of you never know what's going to happen, basically.
Yeah. Do you are you taking L-Dopa?
Oh yes, yep, a bunch.
Oh, you take a bunch of that. Yeah. Did you read the article they just had saying that one of the things they think triggers Parkinson's disease is city pollution.
Oh yeah, or like pesticides and different stuff like that.
Oh God,
yeah.
So it kind of is an environmental kind of thing.
It can be, or it can be hereditary, but necessarily the amount of people getting Parkinson's is increasing, unfortunately, as we put more of the pollutants into the air. But yeah, so it's a problem.
Well, I imagine so, but remember, like my broken neck, like you said, you met your girlfriend, all this, sometimes catastrophe is a gateway to really great things.
Absolutely. Well, on that good note, I think we'll call it a time here. And I appreciate your time very much, Stephen. Thank you very much for joining us.
All right. My pleasure.
All right. We want to thank Stephen again. It was a thrill to have him on the podcast. Stephen, you're welcome back anytime. Be sure to check out his site, thetobolowskyfiles.com. You can find his podcast there. You can also check out his play, A Good Day at Auschwitz, at the LA Theater Works, which is latw.org. And be sure to check out the rest of our episodes and the rest of the podcast network at lastoftheactionheroes.com. And until then, stay hard for justice.
He's a little country. I'm a little rock and roll.